Hi, welcome to the 2020 Cafe here in Brighton. Today I'm going to take you through making a bisque. So this is a rich, thick, creamy soup made from shellfish. Today I've got some local Sussex brown crabs and some prawns. So we're going to be making a crab bisque, make a lobster one, you can make a prawn or a shrimp bisque. What we'll do first of all is I'll talk you through the steps that we're going to need to take, and then we'll have a look at the ingredients. There's two main sections to this. The essence of any good bisque is going to be the stock. So we're going to put a lot of time, a lot of energy and a lot of care into making a very good quality brown stock, a shellfish stock, and that's going to flavour the roux and make a velouté. And then we're going to finish it with some cream and some brandy and a little bit of the fresh crab and maybe some of the prawn. So talking about the stock first of all, we need this to be a brown stock, so we're going to make sure that we get a lot of colour on all of the base vegetables, the mirepoix, the carrots, the leeks, the celery, the onions. So we're going to be frying those off, then we're going to be adding the shellfish shells, so that will be the shells of the crab and the shells of the prawns. We'll be crushing those and then simmering that for a good couple of hours to get all of the flavour out of the shells. That's the first section. Then the second section is making a brown roux using butter and flour and adding the stock to it, and that gives us the velouté. Then some care needs to be taken on seasoning it properly with brandy, some chopped parsley, salt and pepper. Okay, so now we're going to look down and have a look at the ingredients. Okay guys, here we've got the base ingredients for the stock for this bisque. So if we can look down, we've got our base here of white onions, carrots, celery, we've got leek, tomatoes, garlic, we've got some thyme, a bay leaf and some peppercorns. We've got some tomato puree, and here we've got the shellfish. So I've got here 3 Sussex brown local crabs. They were caught yesterday and I cooked them yesterday evening. I've taken the meat out and I'm using that for a separate dish, so we're going to get some money back on that. And then we're going to use these shells and all the flavour that's in these shells to make the stock. I bought in a box of Thai frozen prawns. These are tiger prawns. It's not the season for us to have them, so we bought in some frozen ones. And again, we've used these yesterday for a shellfish risotto to get a few pennies back, and I've been left with all the shells, which have got some lovely flavour. And if ever of you have ever eaten prawns and you've left a little bit of the shell on, you will recognise that the shells have a very, very nice flavour. Heads as well. I've kept a couple of the prawns and I'm going to use that to garnish the end of the soup. But we'll deal with those ones later. For now, what we need is a really good quality, really deep, rich stock. One ingredient I haven't got here, which I'll get in a moment, is a bottle of brandy. Let's get over to the stove and get this stock started. Okay guys, here we are, we're making the stock for the shellfish bisque. Now a lot of time and care needs to go into this, because if this is weak, the final soup will be weak, so put a lot of time into this. If we can come in here, what we can see in the pan here, frying, hopefully you can hear that. We're not sweating this, we want colour. I want to caramelise all of the lovely vegetables, and what we've got here is what I showed you. We've got our chopped carrots, celery, onions. They've gone in first and they've got a good bit of colour on them. Then the leeks have gone in and the tomatoes, and right at the end is the garlic. So that's the base, and as you can hear we're frying. Really important to get a good colour on it. What else is going into that? Good spoonful of tomato puree. I would advise always frying your tomato puree. It mellows the flavour. It's not such an acidic flavour if you fry it first. That's gone in and we're still on a high heat. I'm needing to be careful here moving it. So remember what's in there: carrots, onions, leeks, celery, garlic, your tomatoes and your tomato puree. Going in there as well is a bay leaf, nice big sprig of thyme. Peppercorns, remember this is going to be strained, so you don't have to be too delicate. We don't have to tie it up in muslin. That's smelling lovely. If I move this out the way, you'll see, if you can get in here please. If you can get in the pan here, what you'll see is you're getting a lovely bit of colour here. That's all sugar, it's all lovely natural sugar from the vegetables. And what I want to do is I want to deglaze that off. I've got a bottle of brandy and I'm getting that lovely and hot, almost to the point where it's catching. Generous. And then get in with a wooden spoon and make sure you release all that. You'll have a clean pan and you'll have cooked off the acidy side of the brandy. The alcohol's gone. Lovely. This is not a soup for children. We're getting these out of the way. Then we've got our cooked crab shells. Going in, all the meat's been taken out of the legs, out of the claws, and they're going in. Then you can use the end of a rolling pin, although I don't think the pastry chef will be very happy, so I'm going in with a meat bat just to try and break these down because we want to get as much flavour out of this as we can. So you can see this is quite time consuming and quite a hot task, but it is a good outcome. The shells are now going in. Put them upside down like that so that the meat fat will smash through them. I'm going to come off the heat here because we're sticking slightly. I might end up putting a little bit more brandy in. In with the prawn shells. In with the prawn shells, heads and all. And again, in with the bat to be able to crush those, get every ounce of flavour out. Stuck very slightly on the bottom, so I'm going in with a little bit more brandy to release it. Okay, so now to turn it into a stock, we're going to top it up. I've used cold water. You could, if you had some fish stock around, use fish stock, but I don't have the privilege of that, so I'm using water. And then just make sure you've released all of the lovely sweet caramel from the bottom of the pan. You see already we've got a lovely colour coming. That will darken with time as well. Okay, lid on top and give that hour and 40, maybe up to 2 hours. Okay, welcome back. It's 2 hours later and I've been boiling this stock. This is the shellfish. So in here we have the crab bones, we have the prawn heads, we've got the vegetables, we've got the bay leaf, we've got the thyme, we've got the peppercorn, so we've got a good flavoured stock there. Very nice, very sweet. It's nice to have the brandy in there. What I need to do now is to strain this stock so that we're left with a nice liquid with no bits of shell in. So let's get on and do that. Conical sieve would be the best piece of equipment for this, but we don't have one here, so we're making do with a normal fine meshed sieve, which will do us fine. Squeeze every last drop out, this is all good flavour. We've pounded the shells, we've got more flavour out of them. If you left them whole you wouldn't get nearly as much. Okay, so I'm going to keep going here and get all of this strained, and then we'll get back and then we're on to the second stage, which is to make a brown roux and then add this stock to it to make a lovely flavoured shellfish velouté. And then we'll finish it, salt, pepper, another few drops of brandy, a bit of chopped parsley, and then we'll plate it up. Okay. Okay guys, here we are. We've strained our stock. That's the shellfish stock. So now our job is to make a velouté. So what we do first of all, we've got a pan and we're adding about 100 grams of butter. This is unsalted butter, another way of reducing the salt intake in your diet. Unsalted butter. Not too high. We're going to colour the roux, so we can allow a little bit of colour to get into the butter, but be careful, butter burns very quickly. So it's okay to get a nutty flavour, a nut brown, a beurre noisette, bad pronunciation of French, apologies. But just be careful not to allow it to burn, okay? As you can see on the back here, I've got the stock actually on the heat, that's actually simmering happily. We want the stock to be hot because it speeds the whole process up. In the bottom here we've started to get a nice little bit of colour from the butter. Keep it moving around so no one part of it actually burns. There is a difference between a nut butter and burnt butter. Okay, so I'm going in with the plain flour now. We had about 120 grams of butter, and I'm going to go a little bit more than that. Usually you'd use equal quantities, but I actually want this to be a little bit thicker because I've got some cream and a little drop of brandy to add at the end. So I'm going to make this roux a little bit thicker than you usually would, but it will make sense at the end when we go to finish it. Okay, so keep this moving now. keep it going, and there we've got our roux, which I'm sure you recognise. I'm coming off the heat just because this is a beautiful thick bottom pan. It really has held the heat nicely, but it does mean it will burn if I leave it under the heat. I'm using electric here, which is obviously not very sensitive. If I turn it down, it would take a minute to actually cool down, and my roux would have burnt by then. So if you're using electric, be prepared to actually come onto the heat, get a little bit of heat into the base, and you need with this to always be using pans that have got thick bottoms to them and flat bottoms. A lot of pans in restaurants will have buckled bottoms, and they won't sit flat on the electric, and that means they won't heat up. So if you wanted a white roux, that would have done you. You'd be taking it straight from there, making a velouté or a bechamel from there. If you're adding milk, it would be a bechamel. But I'm going to keep going with this just a little bit, just to get a little bit of colour. Okay, going to start adding the stock, little bits at the top, start. I would say, although I've turned the electric down, it's still a little bit hot, so be prepared to come off. The thickness of the bottom of the pan will mean it will keep its heat for quite a while. Bit of work now to keep adding small amounts of stock, keep going. Make sure you've got the stock you've added combined before you add any more. Okay, you see that's now just coming together, so then I can give it a good beating and get it lovely and smooth again. As long as you're adding small amounts at a time and you're willing to put the effort in, it will come back to being smooth. There we go. If we can come in now to the pan, you can see that's gone lovely and smooth again. It's got a gorgeous colour. The roux smells beautiful. Now I'm going to keep adding more, and I'll get you to come back in a couple of minutes when I've done that. Okay, here we are making our Shellfish Bisque. Let's remember what we've done. First of all, we made a really good flavoured shellfish stock, and we did that by browning our vegetables, our leeks, carrots, celery, onion, our tomatoes, our garlic. We browned that, we added bay leaf, thyme, peppercorns, and then we added the crab shells and the prawn shells, and we mashed those up. If you had a piece of machinery, a blender, you could even blend them so you get every little bit of flavour out. We used a meat hammer to bash them, and when we boiled that for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, to extract all the flavour out of the shells and out of the vegetables. From that stock, which we strained, we then took it and added it to a roux and made ourselves a velouté. And this is now a shellfish velouté that we've got finished here. This has been simmering for about 40 minutes just to make sure the flour's cooked out. Remembering all of the shellfish is all cooked, there's nothing raw in it, it's just making sure the taste, there is no uncooked flour flavour. Okay, so I'm going to have a taste of it. That's very nice, very nice. It definitely needs, and you'll have noticed again on most of my videos I mention that we try to season just at the end to try and reduce the amount of salt. This is going to serve 5 people, so I'm going for 4 good pinches of salt in there. Make sure before you taste it again that's really well stirred, so that you're not just tasting a bit that has or hasn't got salt and pepper. Give it a good stir. Now to finish this for a bit of richness, I'm going to add a dash of cream. This is nice thick double cream. Heavy cream, as they call it in America. And what this does is add flavour, but it also just lightens it very slightly, which is quite nice. Makes it slightly more edible, not quite as rich. Okay, before we serve, let's give it another taste to make sure we're happy. Lovely. Very happy with that. I'm going to go for a little bit of cream for colour, just a little chopped parsley, not a lot. And then I've kept aside a few slices of cooked prawn. If you're delicate, they will just sit on top. And I've also got a little bit of a Sussex brown crab, and again just dropped on top. Making sure plate's nice and clean. Serve it with some warm bread. Happy days. Enjoy.
Thank you.